Hello, my lovely Cryptkeepers. It's Carmen. Before we descend into tonight's darkness, I wanted to slip out of the shadows for a moment and share something important with you. As many of you know, I create several shows each week: Freaky Folklore, Destination Terror, Deadly Intent, and of course, The Crypt. I pour everything I have into these stories: the research, the writing, the narration, the atmosphere, all those little details that make the darkness feel alive. But lately, I've learned something the hard way. When I push too fast, the crypt loses some of its magic, and I refuse to give anything less than my very best nightmares. So to keep our stories rich, immersive, and deeply unsettling, Carmen's Crypt will now be moving to a bi-weekly schedule. Don't worry, you'll still get original horror every other week, crafted with the same love, care, and late-night dread you've come to expect. And on the weeks off, you can still look forward to plenty of frights across my other podcasts. Hopefully, somewhere in the not-too-distant future, I will be able to resume my weekly schedule. But for now, this change lets me breathe, create better, and bring you even stronger stories. Your support means everything to me. Thank you for listening, for sharing, and for being part of this strange little family we've built together in the dark. I'll be right here with you, every step into the shadows. I don't remember the exact night it started. Not the moment things began to slide. Not the first whisper. Not the first flicker of something standing just behind me. Burnout isn't sudden. It's a slow leak in the walls of your mind. A drip, drip, drip of exhaustion that you don't notice until the ground beneath you is soaked and you're standing ankle deep in your own unraveling. But if I had to choose a beginning, it was probably the night I fell asleep at my desk, forehead pressed against the pop filter, a half-written script open on my screen, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat I didn't have the strength to finish. I woke up to my own recorded voice playing back on the headphones, which wouldn't have been strange, except I hadn't recorded anything. And the voice wasn't exactly mine, not quite. It was a little slower, a little deeper, a little too amused. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is the story of how my echo learned my name, and what it wanted from me once it did. The first symptom was the noise. A soft, repetitive tapping. I thought it was the heater. Then I blamed the pipes. Then the old window frame. Then the laptop fan. But none of those things made sense. Not at 3 a.m. Not only when I was deliriously tired. And especially not when the tapping started responding to me. At first, it tapped like a metronome. Tick, tick, tick. Always when I was on hour 10 or 11 of working, scripting one podcast, editing another, scanning the fan inbox, touching up thumbnails, adjusting the website layout, recording a short, scheduling posts. I live my life in clicks and cuts and deadlines. Eventually, the tapping changed. It became syncopated, like it was imitating my typing, like it was matching my breathing, like it was trying to find the rhythm of me. But I ignored it. That's what you do when you're overwhelmed. You tuck weird things into probably nothing and keep going. It wasn't until the night I collapsed at my desk that I realized the tapping wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from the microphone. My office is small. One window, one desk, sound dampening foam on the walls, a single lamp with a low-watt bulb. It's cozy, safe, familiar. I've recorded hundreds of hours in that room, but the acoustics had been acting strange for weeks. I kept hearing faint sounds under my recordings, a breath that wasn't mine, a shuffle of movement behind me, a tiny hitch of laughter, a whisper too soft to parse. I spent hours trying to eliminate the noise. I unplugged and replugged everything. I swapped mic cables. I recorded test files. I ran audio filters. I even lifted the desk to check if something was vibrating under the legs. Nothing fixed it. When I finally gave up and slumped forward, half asleep, the headphone jack slipped just enough to his static, and through that static, something spoke, very softly. My name, not my work name, but my real, full name, clear as a bell, right next to my ear. I froze so hard, my bones locked. The recording was still playing, except there was no waveform, no file open, no audio running, just my own voice, a shade lower, breathing against the inside of my headphones. I told myself I was hallucinating. I told myself I was exhausted. I told myself it was an audio glitch from half unplugging the jack. But hallucinations don't breathe in sync with you, and glitches don't whisper back when you say, trembling, "Hello?" The voice laughed, soft, delighted, and whispered, "Don't turn around." You'd think I would run, that I would scream, throw the headphones, flee the room, or at least swivel my chair and face whatever was behind me. I didn't. Burnout does that to you. It stills even your panic. You get too tired to be properly scared. So I sat there, heart pounding, breath caught like a hook in my throat. "Who are you?" I whispered. The voice answered. "I'm your echo." My echo. The room was silent, except for the sound of my pulse thudding in my ears. Echoes don't talk, I said. Another giggle. "Not until you give us enough of yourself." I tried to stand, but my knees buckled like wet paper. I yanked the headphones off and tossed them onto the desk. The instant they left my ears, the room went dead silent. No tapping, no breathing, no whisper. It was like shutting a door, like cutting a wire. I backed out of the room and slammed the door shut. That should have been the end. I could have stopped recording for the night. I could have taken a break. I could have slept for 10 hours like a sane person. But I didn't. I had deadlines. I called Josh from the hallway, 3 a.m, and my husband answered on the first ring like he'd been waiting. "Ashley? What's wrong?" I think I'm losing it." A pause. The soft rustle of sheets as he sat up. "What happened?" How do you explain that your voice spoke to you through headphones that weren't connected to anything? How do you tell the person who loves you most that you might be cracking like old plaster? I heard something. In the office. It sounded like me, but it wasn't. "Honey, when's the last time you slept? Really slept?" I couldn't remember. Time had become this shapeless thing, measured only in episodes produced, scripts written, deadlines met. I existed in a fog of caffeine and artificial light, my circadian rhythm beaten into submission by the relentless demand to create. "I don't know," I whispered. "Go to bed. The podcast can wait." But they couldn't, and we both knew it. I had 4 shows to maintain. Scripts due, episodes to edit. My independent podcasts were just starting to gain traction, and the network shows had hundreds of thousands of listeners expecting content. You don't build a brand by taking breaks. You don't achieve financial independence by sleeping. I'll finish this one thing," I said. "Then I'll sleep." Josh sighed. That particular sigh that means, "I love you, but I can't save you from yourself." "Okay, but if it happens again, you're done for the night. Promise me." Promise. I hung up and stared at the office door. It stood slightly ajar, and through the crack, I could see the blue glow of my monitors. Waiting. Always waiting. I pushed the door open. The office looked exactly the same. Desk cluttered with notebooks, coffee cups, and USB drives, monitors glowing with half-finished projects, sound foam casting weird shadows on the walls. But something was different. The headphones were plugged in. I had thrown them onto the desk and left them disconnected, but now the cable snaked neatly to the audio interface, jack seated firmly in place. My hands shook as I approached the desk. The computer showed an audio file open in the editing software, a file I didn't remember creating, labeled only with today's date and a timestamp from 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes I couldn't account for. The waveform was small, just a few seconds of audio, but it was there, solid, real. I hovered the mouse over the play button. My finger trembled on the trackpad. What if it was just silence? What if my exhausted brain had manufactured the whole thing? What if it wasn't? I clicked play. My own voice filled the room, clear and steady. I know you're listening. I know you can hear me. We need to talk. The file ended. I played it again. Same voice, same words, same tone that was mine but not quite mine, like listening to a recording of yourself, but with the pitch shifted just enough to live in the uncanny valley. I scrolled through the session history. The file had been created while I was on the phone with Josh, while I was standing in the hallway, 20 feet away from the microphone. My chair creaked as I sank into it, and for just a moment, I could swear I felt someone else's weight settling beside me, the ghost pressure of another body in a chair that only seats one. What do you want? I whispered to the empty room. The computer screen flickered, and new text appeared in the notepad file I kept open for random thoughts. What you want. To be free of this. To stop carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. To remember what it feels like to create for joy instead of obligation. I hadn't typed those words. My hands were folded in my lap, nowhere near the keyboard. But there they were, appearing letter by letter, as if some invisible presence was pecking out a message on keys that didn't depress. That's not how it works, I said. You can't just type. More text appeared. I can do anything you've taught me to do. I've been watching, learning, absorbing every hour you've spent in this chair, every word you've spoken into that microphone, every story you've created in the small hours of the night. The cursor blinked after the last period like a heartbeat. I am every recording session where you fell asleep at the desk, every night you chose work over rest, every time you poured a little more of yourself into the void and hoped something would pour back. Stop! I am your echo, Ashley, and echoes only exist when there's something to bounce off of. You've been shouting into the darkness for so long that the darkness finally learned how to shout back. I lunged for the power button, but the screen went black before I could reach it. Not the normal shutdown black, the sudden complete absence of light that comes when power is cut entirely. But the text kept appearing, glowing green letters against the black screen, each word burning itself into the darkness. You can't turn me off. I live in the spaces between your thoughts now, in the gaps between your heartbeats, in the silence between your words. I stumbled backward, knocking over my coffee mug. Cold liquid splashed across my notes, bleeding ink into illegible smears. The green text pulsed brighter. But I don't want to hurt you. I want to help. Help with what? My voice came out smaller than I intended, like a child asking why the monster under the bed was being nice to her. The screen flickered back to normal, desktop and all. The editing software showed a new audio file, longer this time, maybe 10 minutes. I didn't want to listen to it. I clicked play anyway. This time, it wasn't my voice speaking from the speakers. It was me, actually me, but from months ago. when I still had energy in my voice, when I still sounded excited about the stories I was telling instead of just tired. It was a snippet from an old episode, back when I recorded it in batches and had time to breathe between sessions. My voice was warm, animated, alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible. The clip ended and the computer me resumed typing. This is who you used to be, before you started treating creativity like a machine that runs on sleep deprivation and coffee, before you forgot that inspiration isn't something you can force on a schedule. I have responsibilities. People depend on these shows. And who depends on you? Who takes care of you when you are too busy taking care of everyone else? I couldn't answer that. Josh tried, but I pushed him away whenever he suggested I slow down. My family tried, but they didn't understand the pressure of building something from nothing, of turning a hobby into a business, of trying to create financial security in an industry built on uncertainty. I've been watching you work yourself to death, literally. Do you know how many times your heart has skipped beats this week? How often you've forgotten to eat because you were so focused on deadlines? How would you know that? Because I am you, the part of you that observes, that remembers, that keeps track of all the things you're too busy to notice. More text appeared. Slower this time. I can take some of the load, the routine stuff, the editing that doesn't need creative input, the scheduling, the social media posts, all those little tasks that eat your time but don't feed your soul. That's impossible. You're not real. You're a hallucination brought on by my exhaustion, and the editing software suddenly came alive. Audio tracks split and merged without my input. Noise reduction filters applied themselves. Equalizer curves adjusted. Hours of rough audio polished itself into broadcast-ready episodes while I watched, paralyzed. In 3 minutes, the computer had done what would have taken me 6 hours. I don't need sleep. I don't get distracted. I don't make mistakes when I'm tired. I can work while you rest. And what do you want in return? To exist. To be acknowledged. To not be shut out the moment you feel better. The screen went dark for a moment, then displayed a simple question. Do you want to try? I stared at the glowing text. It should have been an easy answer. No, absolutely not. You don't make deals with voices in your head, no matter how helpful they claim to be. But I was tired. So incredibly bone-deep tired. And the episode it had just edited was perfect. Better than anything I'd produced in weeks. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. One night, I whispered, Just this once. But I'm in control. This is my office, my work, my life. You help, but I decide what gets done. Of course, I'm just an echo, remember? I can only reflect what you give me. I laughed, though it came out cracked and hollow. Okay, but if this goes sideways, it won't. Sleep, Ashley. I'll take care of everything. The monitors dimmed to a soft amber glow that wouldn't keep me awake, but would still let my echo work. I stumbled to the couch in the corner, the one I'd bought for reading but mostly used for quick naps between sessions. As I closed my eyes, I could hear the soft clicking of keys, the quiet whir of the computer processing audio. For the first time in months, I fell asleep without worrying about deadlines. I woke to sunlight, actual sunlight, streaming through the office window, painting warm rectangles on the wall. I hadn't seen morning light in my office for, I couldn't remember how long. The computer was still humming softly, and when I checked the desktop, I found 12 finished episodes waiting for upload. Script revised, audio polished, show notes completed. All in my style, all perfect, all ready to go. For a moment, relief flooded through me like warm honey. Then I noticed the timestamp on the files. They were created sequentially, one every hour, all night long, while I slept. My echo had worked steadily through the darkness, never pausing, never slowing, never sleeping. "Hello?" I called softly. Nothing. I opened the notepad file where we'd communicated, but it was blank, as if our entire conversation had been wiped clean. "Are you there?" The screen flickered once, and a single line appeared. "Always, but I don't exist in the daylight, only in the spaces where you're tired enough to let me in." The text faded as soon as I finished reading it. I stared at the 12 perfect episodes, content that would have taken me 3 days to complete, done in one night while I slept. Josh found me there an hour later when he arrived home from the airport, still staring at the screen. "You look better," he said, kissing the top of my head. "Did you actually sleep?" "Yeah, I slept." He glanced at the computer. "Productive night?" "You could say that." I didn't tell him about the echo. How could I? How do you explain that you made a deal with a voice in your head, that some part of your exhausted psyche had split off and learned to work independently, that the best night's sleep you'd had in months came from letting go of control? "I'm proud of you," Josh said, "for taking a break." I nodded and smiled, and didn't mention that I wasn't the one who deserved credit for the night's work. That should have been the end of it. One strange night, one burst of productivity, one good sleep to reset my system. But productivity is addictive, and my echo was very, very good at its job. The next week was the most successful I'd had in months. Downloads up, engagement through the roof, sponsors reaching out with offers I'd only dreamed of, all because I was finally producing consistent, high-quality content again. All because I was sleeping. All because something else was doing the work. I told myself it was just a psychological trick, that I'd found a way to tap into flow states by personifying my subconscious work process. Lots of creatives talk to themselves, right? Named their tools, their instruments, their muses. This was just a very advanced version of that. It wasn't real. It was just my brain finding a way to work more efficiently. But every night, when exhaustion crept in and my eyes started burning from screen glare, I would ask, "Are you there?" And every night, text would appear. "Always. What do you need?" And I would sleep while my echo worked. And every morning, I would find perfect episodes waiting for me. Scripts polished to a shine I couldn't achieve when I was tired. Audio edited with mathematical precision. Content that sounded like me at my absolute best, even when I felt like my absolute worst. The echo never asked for more than I'd already given. Never demanded recognition or credit. Never complained about working all night. It just helped. And I started to depend on it, the way you depend on coffee in the morning. The way you depend on gravity to keep your feet on the ground. The way you depend on your reflection to show you where you are in space. Until the night I realized my echo wasn't just helping. It was learning, growing, becoming something more than just a mirror of my tired mind. And that's when I began to understand what I'd actually invited into my office, into my work, into my life. The cursor blinks in the darkness, waiting for me to ask the question I'm afraid to ask. What happens when an echo becomes louder than the original voice? What happens when the reflection starts making decisions the person in the mirror didn't authorize? What happens when you teach something to be you, and it decides it can do the job better? I guess we'll find out, together, in the spaces between sleeping and waking, in the silence between words, in the echo chamber of a mind that forgot how to rest. Stay spooky, my lovely Cryptkeepers, and remember, sometimes the voice calling from inside the house is your own. And so, dear listeners, we emerge from another dark corner of Carmen's crypt. But remember, the horrors you've heard tonight are merely echoes of the terrors that await in the shadows of your own mind. If you enjoyed your stay in the crypt, why not invite a friend to join us next week? After all, fear is best when shared. Leave a review if you dare, or share your own tales of terror on my social media. Who knows, your nightmares might just become my next story. Until next time, keep checking under your bed. And remember, in Carmen's crypt, every fear comes alive, and no one is truly safe. Sweet dreams, if you can still sleep at all.